911, what's your emergency? 911, what's your emergency?
Be advised, car 4 has control of the pursuit. Proceed with caution.
Hey everybody, how are you guys doing tonight? I am so sorry, but it seems like either YouTube or StreamYard is really lagging tonight. So I apologize if the stream gets laggy. I will do the best that I can. It's good to see you guys. I have Steve from True Crime Web with me tonight. So I'm thrilled to have him. He's backstage. I was just at his live. I know he was having some sound issues and some issues with the stream as well. So we are just going to do what we can. Obviously, tonight is all Delphi. We are going to talk about the case, because today is the 6th anniversary of when the girls were found. And I know that this is on everyone's minds. People have been emailing me and messaging me all day about it and asking me if I was going to have a special show, what we were going to talk about. And of course, you guys know I wouldn't miss an anniversary to talk about these girls. So we are going to discuss some things tonight. So without further ado, I am going to bring Steve on with me, unless he wants to take a 5-minute break and get his coffee. Are you okay, buddy? Hey there.
How you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, other than StreamYard and YouTube teaming up against us, well, if that's the greatest of our problems, we'll be okay. There's
hear
people
you.
with far more issues than that.
I hear you. You were really laggy there for a bit, but it got better. So hopefully it'll stay better. Mine was really lagging as well. So who knows what's going on out there today? Yep. Maybe it's a really big news day and there's a lot of people online. I don't know.
No. I'm amazed every time I push a button and something happens with my this Google machine. So it doesn't take much to impress me.
I'm so glad to have you here with us. I've missed you. I hope that you and Mrs. Steve are well. I wanted to tell you that I think I dropped in and shot you a message, but your coverage of the Murdaugh trial is off the charts. I mean, off the charts. You are doing such a bang up job with the evidence.
Well,
I'm so
appreciate
impressed.
that. I appreciate that. Put in a lot of work and a lot of hours on that this last week or two. And Chris with Mob Crew has helped me that he's putting stuff together while I do that, because recreating crime scenes is almost as takes as much time as processing one to recreate it, because you have to put it, you only get one. I mean, you can recreate it time and time again, but really just like a crime scene, you get one shot at doing it right. That as you approach, just like with Delphi case, that as those investigators and those first responding officers looked at that crime scene, because that's the first thing you do, is that you look at the crime scene to start the processing. You just don't go staggering in, destroying evidence. And if you do so, then of course you'll reap those rewards of forever having evidence that's been contaminated, and which we see that time and time again in courts. And but on recreating them, there's a lot of time in that. And on the Murdaugh homicides, I fired a gun twice in one day. There, it took me 3.5 hours for pulling the trigger one time on each of the scenes, and that's a lot of time to dedicate just to pulling the trigger one time.
That is a lot of time.
But she hit the wrong button there, so I'm here. But I'll stay here until she comes back on, wherever she's at there in the web world. But we'll be talking about a lot about the crime scene tonight on the Delphi homicides. I'm absolutely sure.
I did hit the mouse, you guys, and I'm sorry. I'll keep my fingers off of it. I don't know what the deal is with that. One of these days, I'm going to learn not to touch that thing.
Well, Mrs. Steve takes care of ours, and so I don't.
So you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, she knows better.
I touch this doggone thing, and I touch it the wrong direction, and it just throws me right out of the stream. It's crazy. But I'm glad you're here. So let's get to saying hello to whoever is all here with us. Hey, Verbal Judo, thanks for being here. Sees through all. Hi, Fusa, Melissa. Hey, Maria, how are you doing? Good to have you with me. Hey, Karen. Hi, Jill. Hi, Grammy Nini. Mitzi Scott, good to see you. Danger Dave, always good to have you with us. Hi, Dee. Miss Siren, Mitzi. Angela Van Noven, good to have you with us. Thank you. Always good to have everyone. Hi, True Crime Housewife. Hey, Josh the Posh. Welcome, welcome. Hey, John. Good to see you, my dear. Hey, Melissa. Salty Beach, how are you doing? Good to see you. Hi, Sandy Wild. Hey, Frank Meister, how are you? It's good to see you. Hi, Digital. So yeah, we're definitely going to be talking about Delphi. I do have a couple of just things I want to update on before we get started that I thought was of good things that we could note on cases we're following. In the Quentin Simon case, her arraignment, Leilani's arraignment has been set for next month. And March 23rd is when she will be entering her plea in the case. For those of you who aren't aware, she is the 22-year-old mother who was accused of killing her 20-month-old son, Quentin. And she's facing 19 charges, including 3 counts of murder. And she's been locked in the Chatham County Detention Center since November. He was reported missing October the 5th, and the FBI believes that Leilani used something in her home to beat him to death before driving him to a dumpster at a mobile home park and tossing him aside. And this past Monday, the grandmother, Billie Joe Howell, handed over 8 notebooks believed to be Leilani's diaries. And they said that they are going to have another motion hearing to decide if those journals should be included in the evidence against the mom. And they're going to also the court will be reviewing records from the Georgia Department of Family and Child Services to decide if information in those reports will also be allowed to be included in the murder case. As we know, her children were taken away from her for drug abuse, and so were in the custody of her mother. But I just wanted to update everybody on his case. So we'll be looking at that one next month to get some idea of what she's going to do. There is another update on the Lindsay Clancy case, which is the mother who is accused of killing all 3 of her children this past month. She was a nurse, and she had just had a baby 8 months prior, but she had 2 older toddlers, and she is accused of basically setting this whole scenario up where she got her husband out of the house. She looked on the internet for maps to figure out how far away he would have to go to be out of the house long enough for her to complete what she needed to do. She also slit her own wrists and her throat before she jumped out of a 2nd-story window after killing the children. Actually, she strangled them, and the children died at the hospital, and her baby died 2 or 3 days later. They are talking about postpartum psychosis. We've talked about this with her case a little bit on the channel. I want everyone to remember that postpartum psychosis is a real thing, and that we need to keep an open mind with her case. It is absolutely heartbreaking what has happened to her family, and her husband. And it's just one of those cases that's just gut-wrenchingly hard to cover. But at the same time, it's something that people need to be aware of that's out there. So the prosecution is very adamant that they're not so sure that she was suffering from this, because there's not been a lot of documentations from her medical doctors stating that she had any of this. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens and where we go with this case in court. And that's the update on that one. And then the only other thing that I wanted to tell you is that there is a missing mother, Rachel Schwartz. And I believe I just got emailed from Twitter that she may have been found, but she had been missing. A Florida mother of 2 who served in the Army in Iraq. She had gone missing after telling her father that she was afraid of her ex-boyfriend. She's 33 years old. She suffered from PTSD and other stress-related illnesses. And her last known location was in Spring Hill, about 50 miles north of Tampa. But I do think that since this story broke, that she may have been located. So that's good news. The other thing, I don't know if you guys heard about or not this week, but serial killer BTK has been in the news because he's being probed by police about a mysterious disappearance of a teenager back in 1976, which was around the time the killer was committing his crimes. Dennis Rader has been convicted of killing 10 people between the years of 1974 to 1991. He's known as the BTK serial killer, which stands for bind, torture, kill. And there is Cynthia Dawn Kenny, age 16, went missing on June 23rd, 1976. And she vanished from Pawhuska, Oklahoma. And he is serving 10 life terms in El Dorado Correctional Facility in Kansas. But he has been questioned by the sheriff and 3 other detectives on January 20th. They wanted to talk to him because they want to know if he's involved in the case. She was last reportedly seen leaving the Osage laundromat and going into a beige 1965 Plymouth Belvedere with 2 other people under suspicious circumstances. But no one has been arrested for her disappearance. And police are not giving up on this investigation. BTK said the cops thought he might have a connection to her because he was committing murders in Wichita when she went missing. And that's about 2 hours away. His daughter has come out and said on Twitter that she doesn't believe her father had anything to do with this particular case. So that's kind of where we are right now. So yeah, it's been 6 years today that Abby and Libby were found murdered in the woods on the Monon High Trail. And it's kind of hard to believe when you stop and think about covering this case and following this case so extensively for the last 6 years. I was just looking at all of my notebooks and stuff this morning, and I actually have 19 notebooks on this case. I have kept just copious notes because I'm such an old school person that I still like to write everything. And I know it seems kind of crazy, but that's just what I like to do. And so one of the things that I did early on in the case, whenever there was an interview or anything like that, I would go through and actually write it out, what was being said, who said what, when. And that was able for me to go back and then reference those when I needed to look up information quickly. I know it's, like I said, it's very old school, guys. You know, everybody else is very tech savvy these days. And, you know, everybody's notes and stuff's all online. I don't know how you feel about that, Steve, but, you know, I think I know how you feel about that. You're kind of probably old school as well.
Yeah, I came from that. You know, we saw as crime scenes and everything evolved from what it used to be back in my father's time. I'm second generation, and they started, and that's all they worked with was pen and paper. And then the digital age. When I first started, even our warrant service was pen and paper. We didn't have it on computers, and that didn't come along until at our department. Now, you know, you had larger departments that had it, but as the computer age came in, but nothing like. I think it was like in before we really got into the computers was late 80s.
Oh yeah.
And then of course in the 90s it was everywhere. And And
Yeah.
now it's even more so. If the computers just quit on us, everybody would just be staring at a wall and not knowing what to do.
They'll be looking at all of us old folks wanting to know how do you do it manually?
Yeah, yeah, they,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
seriously.
Yeah.
Hey, Cold
We'll have to
Truth,
show them how to
good to have you.
sharpen a pencil.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. But I did, like I said, I thought that was kind of an amazing thing when I looked back at all of the notes and all of the things that I have gone over on this case over 6 years of time. There have been so many POIs, so many different directions this case has gone, at least online and through social media.
Well, it's
And
still going in a lot of different directions.
oh yeah, and all the speculation and all the different rabbit holes and everything that we all deep dove and, thought we were onto something and thought we really were, these great internet sleuths. We were sleuthing away, and, not to bash any of us for doing that, but it's amazing to come to find out that, Doug Carter told us for years that they felt that he was local. They felt that he was hiding in plain sight, and people weren't sure what that meant. And as it turns out, their suspect that they ended up charging with the crime was hiding in plain sight and was one of them in their community.
And you can understand, and any small community, that's exactly what it would be. It's going to be someone that lives in the community, and if it's someone that's unorganized, and if it was an absolute raving lunatic, everybody identifies those easily because they have a disorganized crime scene, and that doesn't appear to be the case on this one. That he's not disorganized. He's organized. He brought a weapon. He brought something controlled to victims, and he was able to control it. And now I do believe that he lost control of it, and that's what led the crime scene to the location that happened at. Because when I got there, it makes no sense of why anyone would go to that location. It's so hard to get to. That's not and you wouldn't cross a creek in that water temp for that's not part of a master plan.
No, I've always thought that. I used to drive myself crazy thinking, what kind of a person, what type of mindset would a killer have that would put that kind of an obstacle in their way?
Well,
it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I had absolute confidence. He had an idea of where he wants to take them. He had an idea of where he wanted. And was it going to be unoccupied residence, barn, shed, under the railroad trestles? Where was he taking them? He had the moment he tells them go down the hill, he has a plan. He has a fantasy, and he's going to take them to a certain location. Was it going to just be in a certain hidden area of the woods, which with no leaves, that's probably not, so I think that he had some type of structure or vehicle or some reason of putting them down that hill and he had something pre-planned. And I think Libby and Abby messed that up.
Oh, I do. I definitely do. I think they thwarted his fantasy, and possibly because of that angered him immensely, which could have caused a lot of what happened.
I don't know for the fact that, and I can see your point, but still in a small town, there's nothing that you can do from abducting that once you pull a weapon and you take control and you do kidnapping. There's not anything of their part, but I think that the end result was going to happen regardless.
Yeah, I think that was the plan.
Yeah, because it could go back to if you let them if you let them live, what's going to happen. They're going to identify you. they're going to know, you can't hide in plain sight in that small town. And with witnesses watching and looking and able to say, we're looking for a 5'4" man. He's a little bit shorter than I, because they would have been able to describe him far greater with more clarity than what that video did, because the video, along with the sketches, are, proved to be not as valuable as what we thought.
Exactly. But the more I think about it, Steve, the more I think that video may end up coming back to bite him. I know it it doesn't seem like it's a big deal for us, but I think now that we know who they've arrested and what he said and where he placed himself on that bridge, it's hard to not know that's him on that bridge. And they've said all along that that particular individual is the one who's responsible for this crime. Yeah. So he's really dug himself into a hole. And also the heroics of Libby with the forethought to record him and to record what was happening, coming towards her. She knew something was wrong. She knew something wasn't right.
And I still believe that the gun, the firearm was seen at the end of that video. They stopped that video for a reason. And I believe that there is a firearm that is visible, but for whatever reason, they didn't want to panic the community.
I think that's true.
And they wanted to keep that piece of evidence that, how did you control them? It's one of those law enforcement decisions that may have lengthened. Well, the thing that lengthened that case, and this, is obviously the conservation officer's notes being misplaced.
Yeah. That's, to me, just very interesting. Although we can talk about that here in a second, because I talked about that on one of my shows recently. Indy Pam says, Kristen, what are your thoughts on McClelland asking for more money? I think he needs help, but why wait so long to ask? Well, I don't think he's waiting too long to ask, but I'm in agreement with him. He's going to need more money. I was very happy to hear that he's asking for a special prosecutor. That I thought was important. He needs help. This case is huge, absolutely huge. And he has a tiny, tiny prosecutorial office in Carroll County. This is a small county. They don't have a lot of people in that office. And he's going to need all kinds of hands on deck to help him prepare this case. You have to remember, this isn't the only case before them. They are continuing to have other cases come before their desk. So somebody's got to handle that while somebody is also focused on this case. So I am absolutely 100% behind him. I think it was actually a...
All right. She's been... I don't know if she's been abducted by some of those flying devices that they're seeing in the northern.
Oh my goodness. Jeez. Crazy. It was the aliens, guys. I'm sorry. It was those things.
I didn't know if they shot one down over your house like they had in Canada.
Yeah, something like that. But where was I? I was like on this
talking about the funding for.
Oh yeah, the funding.
Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, there's just so much. And if everybody remembers, even Doug Carter said when the arrest happened, they were going to need anywhere between 60 and 80 officers. And they have to go back through, and Steve can talk about this, but after you have an arrest, you have to go back through everything.
Well, and they proved it by going back through it prior to the arrest, because that's exactly what led to the arrest.
Exactly.
Someone found that. They went back and analyzing, and it makes you wonder on the peer reviews that when even they had the GBI look at it, did they send all the information, all the data, all the tips? And because this tip obviously wasn't entered into the program correctly. And what
Yeah.
was that missing piece?
And that's true. So yeah, I don't feel that he's waited too long to ask. This is the appropriate time to be asking. Remember, guys, we are a long way away from being in court. This isn't going to court anytime soon. So, you know, he's right in doing what he's doing. What I had started to say was I was a little disappointed in how the board handled his request when he was talking about extra money for him and for Steve. I thought that was, they kind of were flippant with him and said that this wasn't the time to talk about that, because they are working more hours and they are putting in a lot of time on this case, and their time should be worth something. And for him to come out and say, well, you're a state employee, I just thought that was kind of a flippant thing for him to say. Had I been there for that hearing, I think I would have said something to the effect of, do you want this case solved or not? I mean, do you want this case, adjudicated in the right way or the wrong way? What is that? What are you doing here?
Well, yeah, absolutely it's going to go one or two ways. Well, one of three ways. Either we're going to take it to trial and you have is adjudicated guilty or not guilty, or you have a plea deal. And those are the three outcomes. Hopefully it's not a mistrial. There's a fourth one out there we don't want.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want one of those.
No.
We definitely don't want one of those.
But the corner that Richard Allen's painted himself into, I just don't see how he can climb out of that. Putting himself on that platform, I'm there. These are the clothes I'm wearing, and full disclosure. And so I just don't see how he can get out of that.
Saying I didn't see the girls, there's no way he wouldn't have seen them. Absolutely no way. I mean, unless he has some power that we're not aware of, that he can go invisible and disappear, there's no way that man did not see those girls.
And I realize why he denies seeing the woman that saw him on the first platform. Because
exactly.
he has to say that, no, that wasn't me she saw on the first platform. That's
Andy,
his only
you are not on a timeout. I don't know why you thought that, but my dear, I did not time you out.
No, Kristen only times herself out for a few seconds.
Right. It's just me. I only do that to myself.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. But
that's the reason, because once he admits that, yes, that woman is identifying me on the platform, then of course that closes off the timeline. It seals it. No ifs, ands, or buts. And that's the only reason why he has to deny seeing that woman.
Yep.
Because
and like Frank Meister said, they just have to prove the abduction. They just have to prove that he told them down the hill, guys, down the hill. And yes. I think that they've got that. I don't think they need, I just don't. So, it's, there's a lot of evidence. There's most definitely a lot of evidence. He's going to have a long road to hoe. But, with that being said, there's a lot of chatter out there about, people are talking about, well, they have a flimsy case or whatever. I think anybody that looks at this and actually looks at the evidence that's in the probable cause affidavit, and we know there's more than that, there's plenty to get beyond a reasonable doubt just from that he was on the bridge. He ran into the girls. He's the guy on the bridge with them who says, guys, down the hill. We don't need to go any further than that, actually.
Well, and then you cap it all off that he can deny all he wants, but if the firearm evidence is allowed in, and that unspent round from his gun is at the crime scene, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. He'll whatever his sentence is, he deserves every bit of it.
Oh, exactly. I
And
agree.
this,
And
to me, is extremely. I don't see how they even can take it to trial, and there's a strong possibility that it won't go to trial.
right, exactly. I was thinking the same thing. And with the casing, with the unspent shell casing, people have said, well, that doesn't mean anything. That could have come from anywhere. No, it couldn't actually come from anywhere because Richard Allen said he has absolutely no way of or idea of knowing how it would have gotten there. It's not like he said, oh, yeah, I'm in those woods all the time, walking around, looking for deer, whatever,
Yeah,
or I go out there and target practice with my gun sometimes. He didn't give any explanation as to why would that unspent casing be found between those two girls.
yeah, because that's not a place that anyone would go and shoot a gun.
Yeah,
That's easy to get to.
right.
I can understand the terrain is perfect for shooting a gun, but it's not something that you would ever find on your own. Um, I, those cliff facings, because I call them cliff facing, they're extremely steep, and at times you almost need a rope to go up and down them, and that's not a place that he would have went with easy access.
Yeah, well, I think um Dave, I think you're right, but I also think Frank's right. The defense has got a lot that they can throw
Oh yeah,
at the
and they
wall.
will.
They're
They
going to
will.
throw everything at this case that they can to see what can stick. They're going to talk about every POI that was brought up in this case, and especially Ron Logan, especially the Kleins. They're going to talk about those people. How can they not?
Yeah.
Because of everything that's gone on with that.
And yeah, and rightly so. I mean, the state and those agencies, they're the ones that created that. They're the ones that missed the piece of the puzzle. They're the ones that focused on it, and they focused on them for the right reasons. I'm not saying they shouldn't have never looked at Ron Logan, and I'm not saying they shouldn't have looked at Keegan Klein for the fact that both of them lied and created alibis. And you create alibis, you deserve everything that comes at you. And so, but there should have been 3 parallel investigations going on at the start. That would have been Logan, Keegan, and Richard Allen. Those are the 3 investigations that should have been going on from the first week or 2.
Oh, yeah,
Whenever,
for
as
sure, for sure. And what I was going to bring up to you, I went back over the PCA and I went over it like line item by line item. And I wanted you to know that in the PCA, it doesn't say anything about a conservation officer. It says an investigator.
mm-hmm.
He spoke to an investigator.
And well, now here
Now,
in the state of Georgia, and I don't know about up there, but here they have an investigative division that all officers have that ability to investigate. So I don't know what the authority is up there with those
right.
guys.
And I thought that was quite interesting when I read it because I thought, well, if it was a conservation officer, would they say that, especially since it was put out that way in the paper? Or would it be just, it's an investigator?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just found that interesting to me that it says that. And which made me think maybe he did get interviewed by an investigator. And that investigator was more concerned because it says right in the PCA what he told the investigator, and the investigator put on his note, we need to look into the 3 teenagers
Mm-hmm.
by the Freedom Bridge, basically, that he saw. That's what he was concerned about. He wasn't concerned about Richard Allen being the guy on the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I mean? It's like his
Oh, yeah.
mindset immediately went to these 3 teenagers. They were more important to him in whatever was going on there. And to me, maybe that's what I think could have very well happened here. It wasn't like he purposely did this. It's just what his mind sent him on.
Well, and another thing that happens in law enforcement, that we answer calls. We get, obviously, but we go and meet with people that contact us and say, hey, I have information for you. And so you're always treating them as the witnesses, and you're trying to find out the unknowns. And the unknown question to this conservation investigator is that, okay, I have a guy that says he has information, and what information do we not have? Who do we not have identified from this information?
Right.
And of course, the natural conclusion is he sees 3 females, and we need to identify them. And of course, he missed the number 1 rule, that we're also looking for a male that was on the bridge that day. And but now I also believe that he never anticipated that they were going to either lose or ignore his canvassing tip that he turned in doing this job. That inquiry, because they had created this little type of index card or whatever type of form that that initial survey or canvassing that they did with all the witnesses, because there were some strange questions in it, because I wouldn't have never thought about asking for certain data on those cell phones. So, that was something that was probably just filling the blank on the questionnaire.
Right. And that makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense. I just think that there's more that we just don't know about those early days. And I do know that the photo of Bridge Guy that was taken from the video was released on the 15th. I went back and looked it up. And it was released on the 15th of November, the 15th of February. So very quickly, he knew that, my God, I'm on video somewhere, or somehow they got a picture of me.
Oh yeah, and I bet you his blood pressure and his heart rate went on high alert for several days and weeks. That how could they not identify me? They have my picture, they have my voice.
Yeah,
and it is absolutely unbelievable that no one recognized him.
Yeah, I'm like, it's just really, truly interesting that he remained. I guess I'll never understand that, but he remained able to continue to go to work, do his job every day, and continue to go play pool with all of his friends and what cohorts or whatever at the bar, and talk about this case to them as if.
Now, he may have talked about the case, but he didn't talk to his friends that, I was there on the bridge that day. I don't believe that he ever told anybody.
Oh, I don't think he did either. I don't.
I think he told one person.
He ever admitted that to anyone.
Yeah. And other than the one person that he was on the trail. Now, I don't think in the affidavit, he doesn't say, yeah, he's looking at the fish. So he's on the bridge looking at the fish, but he doesn't say what he's wearing until the second interview in 2022, correct? I think.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he wasn't asked that, and which would have been interesting if he said, yes, I was wearing blue jeans, blue jacket, and a hat.
Yeah, that wasn't asked of him that I'm aware of. He just said he was there, but he did say that he parked there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, at the Farmers or whatever it was. Old
Yeah,
farmer building.
the farm building, the farmer's building or whatever. Hey, Tech Death, it's so good to see you and have you here with us. Much love to you and to your father. Praying for him every day. And really good to have you here tonight, my dear. But I mean, yeah, it's, he placed himself even as, yeah, I'm the guy who parked at the CPS building that the law enforcement's looking for the driver of the car. He even tells that.
And why would he park there? That makes no.
It doesn't make any sense.
You're not going to go and commit. He went prepared, what was his master plan? Where was he going to? I understand why that if your intention was to go and do something and you had a prepared area or you had a location that you were going to take them, but it wasn't that we're going to take them back to the car. That's not where you park.
No, if you were going to take them back to the car, you would not be parked there.
You've been at the cemetery.
Yeah. Or
it would have been over there on that.
Or on the private drive.
On the private drive under the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you parked, or somewhere on that trail or some of the property. But you wouldn't be, you're not going to be taken to hostages down that trail with the chance of meeting witnesses or taking them past a road that has a business on it with cameras. And I will always be at questioning where was that location that he had in his mind of his master plan. Where am I going to take him?
Right.
And he went with a purpose. He had the firearm. He had a knife.
Frank Meister asked, True Crime Web, what's your take on the person in black?
I think the man in black that the girls describe, and if that's the one you're talking about, that the girls describe, one man that was dressed all in black. I think I have a red-green deficiency. And when you look at certain things, everybody sees things differently. You see a dark blue or a blue color, and if you see it in the shadows, it's going to look black. And I think that's just what they saw.
Yep, I agree. I don't think there was anybody in black. I think they saw him, and he was dressed exactly the way he was dressed, but everybody saw him differently, whether it be, like you said, in the shadows or
in the bright light,
right, bright light, whatever, and they saw it as black.
Yeah, because there's a lot of trees on that trail, and even when there's no leaves, there's a lot of shadows there, and I think they just missed that, and maybe even wrote it down incorrectly.
Right. So Digital wants to know, he told the truth about what he was wearing in 2022, but never mentioned it in 2017. He was never asked in 2017 that we are aware of about what
he may have been asked,
wearing.
But it just wasn't noted.
Yeah, it wasn't noted in the notes that's in the PCA that was taken from his statement or his quote unquote tip. So, yeah.
Yeah, on Andy Pam, I don't think there was a second person in black. I think those three girls saw one individual, and they all described the same individual, but just from their own perspective and opinions, and of what they saw. And,
yep, I don't think there was a second person. Honestly, I'm sorry. I just don't. I think they saw him.
Because there's four people that didn't see him. It'd be the three girls, and Richard Allen didn't see the guy in black.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they support each other. Richard Allen supports the three girls seeing him, and the three girls support in the reverse. So
exactly,
either way you look at it, everybody is supporting each other's statement. That yes, I saw those three girls, and those three girls, yes, I saw him.
Yep.
And
because we do all see things differently, and we see colors differently. We all describe colors differently. It's just mind-boggling how that is, but it's the truth.
It is. Mrs. Steve has to dress me because I'll wear all kind of outlandish stuff together, and she absolutely
Yeah,
drives her crazy.
yeah, for
My
sure.
color palette is not normal.
So like I said, yeah, Dave, I don't think he had an idea that he was being recorded. I don't think that he had any indication or was paying any bit of attention that he was being recorded by Libby.
Yeah.
I just don't. Now, we don't know, and that'll come out at some point in court, or at some point we will find out. Was the cell phone intact when they recovered it? Because we don't know that. Did they get this stuff off the cloud? Did they actually get it off the phone? We don't know. You know, again, I'm not throwing Steve, my dear friend here, under the bus, but he'll be the first one to tell you that he's not tech savvy. So there are certain things he's not tech savvy about. We don't know that Richard Allen was. We don't know how much technical stuff he knew or what. You know, he's you know, he's a 45, 43. How old was he? He's 40.
Yeah, somewhere around 43 at that time, I think.
Yeah, he was 43 years old. You know, maybe he was tech savvy. Who knows? But if he wasn't, then he may never, even if he did see a phone, he may not have thought anything of it. The fact that she would have had him on it, in other words. And he may have been smart enough to know, I certainly don't want to pick it up and take it with me, because that could lead right to him. So that would be one reason why he would have left it behind had he seen it there, in my opinion.
I mean, you know, he puts himself on a short list in so many ways. If he's checking his phone's on, or was on, had it with him, and why wasn't that on Ives' cellular data? And
yeah,
and so that's a list. He puts himself parking there. That's the list. He puts himself on the trail. That's a list. He's male. You know, there's only one person that meets all that.
exactly. And going back to this, you know, going back to the whole 6-year mark, I don't remember when things got hot and heavy about this, but everybody was talking about the photo that Libby took of Abby on the bridge. There was a lot of conjecture online that didn't happen that day, and that Snapchat picture was from some other day, and there was all kinds of stuff said about that. And there was a lot of talk about a woman named Cheyenne and her friend who was supposedly at the bridge. And all I want to bring up is that they are not mentioned at all in the PCA.
Yeah.
They're not mentioned at all about somebody being out there after that time, because it would have been somewhere around 3 something or other and whatever, because she didn't leave until 4, according to her. And I just want you guys to be aware that that witness of her stating all of that is nowhere in the PCA about her being there.
Yeah.
So I just thought that needed to be put out there, because
That's supporting evidence. That's supporting evidence that when she's on the bridge, the timeline of when he's on the road and being seen by the other witnesses matches that.
Yep.
And so although, and now that may come up in court during testimony. That,
because Dave says the same thing. Either is Flannel Shirt Guy. He's not in the PCA as well. And either is Cheyenne. They don't talk about them as being witnesses. And so it makes you wonder. They also don't talk about the exterminator guy that was supposedly out there exterminating, and he saw something supposedly, so that he felt compelled to tell law enforcement. It's just going to be really, really interesting, because the woman who came to the bridge and saw him on the platform is crucial to the timeline of this. And we know that when Cheyenne was supposedly there was after the fact, because her phone time on her phone was wrong, because she had not reset her phone for daylight savings time. And so it was actually an hour later than what it was showing. It was showing an hour earlier. She didn't fall back in the fall.
Okay, I didn't know how that. I had that's first I've heard of that.
Yep. So, but it'll be really interesting to me to see if that is part of it, because we know approximately what time things went down, as far as, well, we've got a pretty good timeline of guys down the hill.
Yeah.
And we know at that point they go down the hill, and we know approximately how long it would take for them to do whatever to get across to where he took them. And we also know that at about around 3:15 is when Derek German shows up to look for the girls.
Yeah, whatever the exact time that they have of down the hill, probably within 5 minutes of that, it's all over.
Yeah.
That they're hurt to the point that they can't escape because
yes. Yeah. And it's and that is what is really, really strange about the fact that Derek was there, no, with all of that happening right there.
Mm-hmm. And we have supporting evidence from another crime, Koberger out of Idaho, whereas we have the 4 victims in such a small time frame of being assaulted with a knife and being victims of a homicide, and that, once again, that the power of just what a knife can do and how quickly it can incapacitate an individual.
Yes, Peter, it's supposed to. Your cell phone updates with the cell phone company whenever there's a time change. But when all this stuff came out about Cheyenne supposedly being on the bridge and taking all these photos and stuff with another person, she was showing photographs online that showed the timestamp at the same time the girls would have been on the bridge, like around 2:15, 2:30, something like that. And everybody said that was impossible. She would have seen them, because she said she didn't see or hear anything. And that's where we're at with that. If the phone was changed and that timestamp is correct, then you can't, what's going on? Why is she not, what did she see? What did she hear?
I'm trying to remember back in 2017, the phones have to be adjusted. That there was a time where you had to turn your phone off and turn it back on for it to automatically update. And I don't, at some point in my phone, I don't know if it was with the old flip phones or with the of when that change came.
Yeah, I'm not sure
about.
I'm not sure either. And Maria, the girls were actually they weren't abducted close to 2 o'clock. It was 2:13 when bridge guy approached them on the bridge. So it would have been closer to 2:15, 2:20 when the girls were taken down the hill. But it will be interesting to see when that happened. Like you said, I think they have more video. I
yeah.
think they have a video of him with the gun. And they probably have obviously more audio that they did not want to ever give us that information all these years. They never wanted us to know for sure that there was a gun, and they never wanted us to know that he may have said, that the girls may have said gun. They didn't want us to know of that. So, yeah. Interesting. One of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight, you guys, and I wanted to show you guys this. Hold on a second so that I can make this to where we can show it. Because I hadn't seen this photograph before, and I wanted you guys to see it. If I can get this. I hadn't seen this particular picture before, but I wanted to share it. Oh, where are you? I know. It's so, it's like, where? There you are.
Yeah. No, you don't want me looking and pushing buttons. Your mouse would already be broken if I had it.
So here's a picture of Anna Williams and Becky Patty and Galen Rose. And this was at the dedication of the bench for the girls. That, it has Kiani and Cariel, Kiara, Kiana, and Abby and Libby on this bench. These were made by the art department, or designed, I believe, by the art department. And what I thought was interesting, and I'm sure there was probably a lot of people that gave a lot of crazy remarks about this, but Galen's got a smile kind of on her face, and so does Anna. And it's just kind of a lighthearted moment at this dedication. And it was kind of good to see that they were able to have that lighthearted moment and share this, because, everything that these mothers, lost that day is gone forever. I put out a video today, you guys, and it was basically a tribute video for the girls, and for the 6-year anniversary, because I wanted people to remember the families and what they're going through. I don't think that we can ever lose sight of that. And a lot of times when we are covering this case or these types of cases, it becomes all about the case, all about the perpetrator, and we lose sight of the victim, and we lose sight of the victim's families. And Abby and Libby are greatly missed, and there's a lot of pain still within their families of this horrific thing that happened to them. It's almost like everything stood still for them on that day, and the world just kept on turning and spinning, and they had to figure out a new normal and how to pick up and go on. And it's not an easy thing ever to have to do after the loss of your child, no matter what. And I think that they've done a remarkable job of trying to navigate this horrific sea of social media. True Crime Maria and I were talking about it earlier today, that of all the cases we've followed and all the cases we've covered, I have never seen a case that had so much horrific things said about family and family members and dragging them into this. For months and years, people have blamed the family and said the family was responsible for this crime in some way, whether it be Kelsey or whether it be Cody or Mike Patty himself. I mean, it's just insane what the pain that these families have had to endure because of the loss of their kids.
I just sent you an email. If you get a chance, look at that email and see what you think of that picture I just sent you. That was brought, and I'm sure it's been discussed. But I did find it interesting.
I did see it, and I think I did, and it was sent to me as well. And when I first saw it, when I first saw it, I thought, wow, but I did hear that it's not. I don't know how they know that, but I'll share.
I don't either. Yeah, because it is an interesting thought.
This is the photo that Steve is talking about of Libby. And this picture, or this person back here in the background, looks a lot like Richard Allen. And this is at some event. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I know it's surfaced around. I know it looks like him to me, but I don't know. Like I said, I don't either. I've heard it isn't him.
It's been out there for quite a while, but I've looked at it, and I've looked at it for hours and hours, and I didn't. I don't know who the event was, and is it or is it not? It really probably doesn't matter, because if it's an event with kids, he has children also.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just, it's really uncanny, because the picture to me feels like somebody put him there, whoever this person is.
No, it's on a video. I think
it's on a video.
I think
because
it is a video.
He doesn't have a shirt on, does he?
No, I think there is a tan shirt there, I think.
Okay.
I don't know.
When I look at him, and when I'm looking at the photo, it looks like he doesn't have a shirt on. So,
well, yeah, I mean, if you look at the neck shadow just under his chin, it appears to be
okay.
Right now. There's two different colors there, so I would think that's
face and that structure of face sure looks like him back in 2016.
Mm-hmm. And someone said that they thought it was Cody Patty, and that could be exactly who it is, because what image in the world that of the one sketch that looked like so many people, and,
right?
It does look like some of the Patty family.
Yeah, and I think it probably is Cody more than anybody, but who knows? Like I said, I just heard after it was put out there, I heard that it was not Richard Allen.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but like I said, I just got it, and I've had it for a while, and I just thought, okay, don't know what it means, and which we know law enforcement would look at it and they would evaluate it one way or the other, because if they know the event, they know what event it was, and they know who was there.
Yep. And a lot has happened over the 6 years. The Monon High Bridge will never be the same. They redid it. They redid the bridge. It now has these benches that you can go out and sit on and reflect.
Hopefully I'm going to be up there in a few weeks. I think some of the snow most of the snow gone right now, isn't it?
Yeah, the snow's gone. We got rain today. It's supposed to be up in the 40s and 50s all week. I believe next Monday and Tuesday it's supposed to go back down into the 20s, but then right back up into the 50s. So
Okay. Yeah, I have a window of opportunity. I may be traveling north in the next week or two. I've got a bunch of work to do up there.
that's awesome. We always like it when you can come north.
It's been about what, 2 weeks? I think last time I was in southern Indiana for just a day.
Yep.
But I had some work to do there and got that taken care of.
Are you going to do any more in Iowa?
Yes, that's where I'm going to be heading. I checked the traffic cams today, and all the snow appeared to be gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
And so there's supposed to be a snow event Thursday. And
I heard that we might get some, but I don't think it's going to be much because.
So I'll be making my plans Friday morning. Whenever I get up and there's sunlight and I can see if there's snow in Iowa or not, that's when I'll make my plans of where I'm going to head out.
Cool. And that's awesome. I love the fact that you're working that case. I just
and actually Code Truth had a case earlier that was you in chat with her earlier on the about the Mullis case, girl out in Indiana.
Yes.
So I got the phone number, and he gave me a phone number to call. So I'm going to contact him. And as I travel through, I'll probably stop in and talk to them and see what I can do for them as I pass through.
That's great. That's great. Because I know that anybody would be blessed and welcome to have you working their case.
Well, not that I can work miracles, but I will try to do what I can, put a fresh set of eyes on it. And there's always.
You have so much insight, and the way, like I said, I mean, just watching you, if you don't realize how important you are to this genre, just look at your channel. I was around for your beginning, and in fact, I think I'm your very first member of your channel.
You were my first paying member.
I was your first paying member, and you're up over 7,000 subscribers, sir. People are tuning in because Steve is got all of this experience. You are so easy to talk to, and the way you explain things, it's not over people's heads. It's very, down to earth. It's easy to understand, and it's needed. These are questions that everybody has when we follow these cases. We all wish that we had a law enforcement officer on our right, you know what I mean, and a prosecutor on our left, so we can just bounce questions off of all day long.
Well, there's nothing magical about what you do. It's just logic. I mean, that what I was doing with the firearm, interpreting where the shell casings were landing, is that guns function a certain way. They're ported on a certain way. A shell casing lands a certain distance. And once you understand that the gun has to be oriented in a certain direction for a casing to land in a certain area, it's just common sense of my most recent testing. And, it's not anything that I discovered. It's just due to training and applying those rules. There's rules in everything from playing chess to investigating crime scenes. And as long as you stay and apply those rules, you'll stay on a safe path.
Do you like to play chess?
Oh, yes.
I love to play chess.
Mm-hmm. I play chess I go online, probably play 20 or 30 games a day.
That's awesome. My dad taught me how to play chess, and I love it. I love the game.
I'm no good. I'm
I'm okay. I wouldn't last with a professional.
Oh no, who would?
Yeah, I was gonna say, but yeah, I do enjoy the game. What else was I going to ask you about? when oh, you don't have to tell me, Julianne. I agree. He is awesome. I'm one of his biggest fans. So,
I'm honored. Thank you.
Oh, what was I was going to ask you something about, what do you think about there's been a lot of stuff made about these in the last couple of days about the discovery and the documents. Have you heard about the documents that came out about the discovery?
No.
Hold on a second. The state has requested once a protective order over, it was a motion requesting a protective order governing discovery. And basically what McClellan is asking, that they have filed charges against the defendant under the above referenced cause number, and that pursuant to Rule 26 of the Indiana Rules of Trial Procedure, the defendant is entitled to discovery, which includes materials of a very sensitive nature. Oh, for goodness sakes. Hold on a second. Sorry.
Okay.
And
I can see possibly where that's heading. Okay.
And it says, therefore, pursuant to the provisions, the state requests that the court issue a protective order governing these materials as follows: that one copy of the discovery material shall be provided to counsel for the defendant, that the discovery material shall not be used for any purpose other than to prepare for the defense in the above referenced cause, that the discovery material shall not be publicly exhibited, displayed, shown, used for educational, research, or demonstrative purposes, or used in any other manner except in judicial proceedings in the above referenced action.
Okay.
And that the discovery material may be viewed only by parties, counsel, and counsel's investigators and experts. That if copies of the discovery material are made and provided to the defendant, investigators, or experts for the defense, that sensitive and private information contained in the discovery shall be redacted, including any Social Security numbers, IDAC information, or NCIC information, any information related to the personal information of juveniles, including Social Security numbers, names, and dates of birth, and any FBI Sentinel information, and that discovery material shall not be distributed to any person not authorized to view it, including witnesses, family members, relatives, and friends of the defendant. That no person other than the defendant, counsel for the defendant, and those persons listed in paragraph 5 shall be granted access to said discovery material or the substance of any portion thereof, unless that person has signed an agreement in writing that he or she has received a copy of this order and that he or she submits to the court's jurisdiction and authority with respect to the material and agrees to be subject to the court's contempt powers for any violation of this order, and is granted prior permission by this court to access said discovery material, and that upon final disposition of this case, the discovery material referred to in paragraph 1 and any and all transcripts shall be returned to the Carroll County Prosecutor's Office or maintained by the defense counsel pursuant to the terms herein. That counsel for the defendant shall be responsible to ensure all persons involved in the defense of this case comply with this order, and that the written documents or records provided by the state with the discovery material fall under the same rules as described above. I think.
I still here. I still
Yeah, you're still here, but you're frozen. There you are.
what does that?
So I guess what that means is that because there is very sensitive information, these are minors, the murder, that, they're going to be descriptions of how the girls died, all of that. I think that's kind of what I'm thinking they're talking about. Plus, they're talking about the sensitive nature of the witnesses being, some of them being underage still. So I think that they're worried about that.
Yeah. The case, witnesses that have
Yeah. I know that people were questioning that. Yeah, JDR, it's because he's lagging. So just give him a minute. Not a lot he can do about that. This was going on earlier in the evening. It was a StreamYard or YouTube issue. And he will come back in. So he'll try to come back in and see what's going on. Yeah, no kidding, Maria. The aliens got him too. I hope not. I'd be upset if we lost Steve to the aliens. I would not be happy. And I'm sure Mrs. Steve would not be happy either. And I think she's probably a force to be reckoned with. So, he's back, but he's not back fully. So I'm just waiting. There he is.
Am I
How you
still
doing?
frozen? I don't know. I don't know how I'm doing.
Oh no, there you are. It's not as crisp as you were. You're getting crisper. Now I can see you.
Okay.
Yeah. We want you returned. I do not want aliens taking you anywhere.
Oh, no. We don't have those down here in Georgia.
Okay. I was like, your grandbabies would not be happy.
Oh no. Like I said, we don't allow them down here in Georgia. We got other issues. They evidently all the unidentified space or crafts like northern atmosphere.
Something weird. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that, but yeah. Do you want to repeat what you were saying about the?
I think it's got a lot to do with the confidential informants and possibly that transcripts and CSAM. Because most of these kids, I can't imagine, that there's anyone underage now.
Well, they said there was.
Are they
in the
still
PCA.
underage even now? 6 years later?
They did. They said that. So I don't know who these kids were or what grade level they were in that may have been witnesses, but there are witnesses that they said are still underage.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting.
So
I can't see them being underage by the time this thing gets to trial. I mean, because you'd almost have to be a 10-year-old.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know if Verbal said return to Roswell. Yeah, I don't know if they were junior high kids, because Abby and Libby were in the 8th grade. So it's very possible that they've got, they had 7th graders or, whatever. I don't know. I just know what he said, that there were still underage witnesses.
That's interesting.
We'll have to wait and see. But I do find it interesting that you and Frank's take on tonight when you said that you believe that there may very well not be a trial.
Mm-hmm.
That is interesting to me because I really haven't let myself think about that much.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
that's a great
that bullet,
possibility.
if they get that bullet into court, that's, that's hard. Just him painting himself that I'm on the bridge wearing that clothing.
Oh yeah.
And unless he takes the stand and says, "Oh, I was on the bridge, but that's not me at the end of the bridge with them."
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only thing he can say, because if he says that is me at the end of the bridge, and they stopped it as he pulls a firearm out, he's toast. I mean, there's no,
Yeah.
there's no
And
answer to that.
I had a question for you, and I don't know if you know this or not, if you'll be able to tell me or not, because this might be something that a lawyer actually has to answer. But what do you think is a possibility that they do a voice analysis on him?
I've never heard of it being done. I would love to see what that would be. I don't even know if it's ever been in a court case before, has it?
I
Do we
don't
know?
think so. I don't know. But I remember that they talked about the fact that they couldn't do a voice analysis on Bridge Guy because there wasn't enough there. They couldn't, you know what I mean? They didn't have enough. And I
Mhm,
was like, they couldn't compare it to others because there just
mhm.
wasn't enough of his voice. And I was just wondering if they could now, with having him, if that would still be the case. It's just a
Oh, I don't
question
know.
I had. And I don't even know if you can even put that in court or not.
Well, there's always new precedents set at trials, and as new technologies come, I mean, there was a time DNA wasn't allowed, and so
Sure.
where are we moving and how are we heading? And so it is a possibility.
Frank Watson said, I would hope by now they at least attempted a voice comparison with his jail phone calls. Probably will sound similar to the cell phone video. You would think that that they would have tried something to see if they can get anything. But again, if he tried to throw his voice or change his voice, you know, anything's possible there too. All
We
you have to do is be good at acting to be able to change your voice. Yeah, like Digital said, it's just 3 syllables down the hill, unless there's more that we don't know about. And it's hard to imagine that there isn't, but I don't know.
Oh, I don't either. I don't
No
either.
way.
Every case that you look at, you think that you're never going to beat this case. It's the weirdest case ever, and then the next one comes along and it's just as bad.
Well, I was
That
just going to say I mean, you've looked at Delphi, you've been, been through it. You know what's going on in Delphi and how weird it's been. What do you feel as far as the Murdaugh trial? Because you were covering both. And I mean, that seems to me to be the weirdest case. There is so much crazy.
Well, if the only evidence and there that puts him at the crime scene is that video,
Right.
and his denial of him being there is the largest piece of information they have against him, because all the other DNA, all the gunshot residue, all of that can be explained away, and the only thing that contradicts his story of taking a nap is that video. And can he explain that away? Can he take the stand and say that, oh, due to the stresses and I had a mental lapse of didn't realize I had stopped in at the at that moment. And I don't know if the jury would accept that or not. We're going to probably find out.
Do you think he'll end up testifying, Steve?
I believe that he'll be forced to if he fights that video. He's going to have to explain the video. That's the strongest piece of evidence against him. And the jury will want to know.
He's been super emotional this past week
Mhm.
at the defense table.
Yeah.
Really emotional.
Yeah. And he's going to have to explain that. far as I'm concerned, that's him there. And he says that he's 1,150 something feet away when he's there within minutes of their phones forever going offline. And, when people lie to you, they lie to you for a reason. They just
Right.
don't.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I just thought that was interesting because the cases are so, Delphi has got so many twists and turns. And this case, it seems, I mean, it's got all the ballistics. It's got,
Mhm.
it's got a lot of that information. In fact,
Mhm.
I listened to a lot of that when they were presenting the
I mean,
ballistics.
it parallels Delphi. I mean, you got a video by a victim within minutes, exactly, just like with Delphi. I mean, it's uncanny that within 5 minutes, I believe that within 5 minutes of Libby's video, she was deceased, and I believe within 5 minutes of or within 5 to 10 minutes of Paul's video, he was deceased. And it's just uncanny that you have these parallels.
That
Of these,
it is, and I when I was
and then we get
watching
the
it,
gun information. Then you get the shell casing information and the
yeah,
um,
it is. It's like wow, and so it really does give you some insight into this case, into Delphi, by watching that case.
you got 2 victims that you have to control, and of course now they died in different manners of death. One with a edged weapon and one with a firearm, but still you got 2 victims, and so it's just absolutely uncanny that both of these cases are parallel in such a manner.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, like I said, um it's been 6 years, and here we are. This is where we are. We are basically waiting now, a waiting game of going to see what is going to play in court, and wait to see all of the motions that are put forth by their defense on what evidence they want to suppress and what evidence the court is actually going to allow. Because that, if those things happen, that will also play a lot into whether or not we have a trial.
Yeah, like I said, I just don't know how you overcome. I'm on the bridge, and I don't see the witness that sees me, and I don't see the 2 victims. And
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm wearing the exact clothing that you have a picture of.
Yep. And I agree with that.
And my bullets found at the crime scene.
And I would like to see what kind of a defense he could even come up with. Because like I said, it's himself who has placed himself there, who has put himself into this position. And we have always talked about who would put themselves smack dab in the middle of a murder scene if they weren't, who does that?
And the irony is this, that if he hadn't have come forward, they probably would have arrested him back then from his phone data. But by coming forward, they missed him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes no sense.
It's ironic for sure. And I'm glad that they've got the arrest. We've been waiting and waiting for this. And granted, he's innocent until proven guilty. And I'm going to say that for sure. But there is such a mountain of evidence in this case already, just in the probable cause affidavit. It's hard to ignore that. And just like you said, it's the totality of the evidence. It's not just one piece. It's the totality of it all. And they have more than what they've shown us. Because I guarantee you they didn't put it all in the DCA.
they come back with that seat belts, and they come back with any DNA from the processing of that vehicle. And I believe it will be there. I honestly do. And we may not just have it, but just if that comes to pass, then it's over.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it'll be really interesting to see what they do get off that vehicle. Because like you said, it's hard to even imagine or fathom that there wouldn't have been blood in that car, because we know he had to have been covered in it. And we know somebody saw him muddy and bloody. So,
I'm hoping.
yeah, I'm right there with you. Right there with you. So what's your next stop is Iowa, Evansdale, right?
Yes, as far as in the next week or two, I'm going to try to get up there. Like I said, it all depends on what happens Thursday. I've done, Mrs. Steve and I were speaking about it earlier, that in most of my travels, which is not good for building a channel, but it has to be done to work the code cases, because I can't create content on some of the cases. But I've got to go up there, and we're still doing some things that we have a timeline of how to generate leads and certain things that we have to do, but we can't do that until certain things occur. And but we got to go to Texas. We had a scientist contact us that has the technology to find grave sites, and the possibilities of being able to locate amber from 40 years ago is absolutely something that we never anticipated. We were going to have to use cadaver dogs, but then when this scientist contacted us and has the technology to find disturbed earth, it opened up a whole new area of investigation for us.
Awesome.
And they can do it even existing homes. So we don't even have to, the home doesn't have to be, we can drill holes, we can do whatever. If there's a slab poured, we can still investigate the earth and see if it's been disturbed in the last 100 years.
And that's awesome, because they use that same technology in the Kristen Smart case, which is how they knew, which is one of the reasons why they got the conviction, because they were able to tell underneath the deck that she had been buried there, or that a human body had been in that ground and in that dirt and in that space and had been moved. So the technology is amazing that they have now on what they're able to, with the ground penetrating radar, what they're able to do with soil sampling and all of that, and getting the biological evidence is really incredible to me.
Yeah. And but I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited about it. We got a lot of stuff going on, and we're moving forward.
Digital is still not getting it. So let's answer his question. Digital says, how much of the PCA can they prove? Investigators believe car resembles witnesses report. None of that is really evidence. Do you want to say it one more time?
He confessed to being on the bridge. He says, I'm the man on the bridge. I was there at that time. I saw the girls. I walked the trail. I sat on the bench. I was on the first platform. We have a witness that corroborates and says, yes, I saw him on the first platform. And I turned around and I went back to my car, and I met the two victims less than a few hundred feet from where he says he's at. They corroborate each other's stories, and yet he denies seeing them. And then his bullet is found at the crime scene. And that's pretty much it in about 40 seconds.
Yep, exactly. I think that's enough. I just do. But
that's just my opinion. I mean, but that's what the case is in a nutshell, that he's the one. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. He's the one that says, I was on that bridge wearing those clothing.
Yep.
And I didn't see them. And
exactly.
And I parked where they said a suspicious vehicle was parked. That was
Yep.
me. You know?
And by admitting that he was on the bridge, and that, he at the time he was on the bridge, the lady who sees him on the platform watching the fish, she puts him there. She places him there at what time. They know what time. And within minutes, Abby and Libby are on that bridge. So it's very, very hard to, it's very, very hard to dispel that, or
Yeah, because the witness that saw him on the bridge sees the girls between Richard Allen and Richard Allen's vehicle. Richard Allen has to go back down that same trail that this woman who saw him on the bridge, that he says he was on that first platform, he has to go back down that trail to get to his vehicle, just like the woman has to get down that trail to her vehicle.
Yep.
And during that walking back on that same trail that he would have had to take, he missed the girls within seconds and that he'll have to explain that. And, or the defense will have to explain it in some manner, and I don't know if they can. I don't see how they can.
I don't either. But yeah, it'll be an interesting thing to watch. And Don says he thinks his goose is cooked, but all you need is one person like in the chat who are not convinced. And that's true. You only need
But
one
I want
juror.
those people. We want those people in chat, and we want those people in juries. We have to have those people that you have to absolutely convince, because otherwise you can't never just take law enforcement's word for it.
Yep.
You have to make them prove it. And I like that. I really do. I like
do
people
too.
that
I agree.
Yeah.
That's what the whole process of what a jury is supposed to be about. You don't want a jury that's going to sit there and listen to all the evidence and go back into the jury room, and the jury foreman says, okay, let's take a poll and see where we are right now. And they take a poll and everybody is for guilty, when you haven't looked and examined all the evidence. And you haven't
put handcuffs on him, he's guilty.
Yeah, you haven't discussed it amongst yourselves. And that's very, very important in being on a jury. And I've been on a jury, I've been on a grand jury, and I'm telling you, it's very important that you look at the evidence that was presented to you. It's not about what you think. It's not about how you feel. It is about what was put in front of you as evidence. And that's what you know
why I did my job? Do you know why I put so much effort into doing my job? Is so that when I went to court, I knew that people were going to question me and make me answer it. And I had to answer it truthfully. And to do that, you have to do your job, and you want to be, and those questions force you to do your job correctly. And, because without that defense attorney who does not believe one word, now they may believe you, but they're not going to let the jury know that they believe you.
Right.
Yeah. That's incredible, officer.
Right. That's unbelievable.
That you believe my client is guilty on just such evidence of that, but you just have to be prepared. But that's the reason that investigations and people are dedicated to doing the job is that you're going to be questioned. People are going to say that you're a liar in court. It's going to be on the opposing side. Now, if you ever have a prosecutor telling you you're lying, you're in trouble. But,
there you go. Integrity. It's about integrity. It's about doing the right thing. It's about doing your job with the utmost of integrity, so that when you are called to give expert testimony or testimony in court, in a court of law, you can do so with the utmost confidence that you know what you're talking about and that it's the truth. Mm-hmm. And I think that jurors tend to understand that. And I think they can tell most often when people are lying or when people are telling the truth.
Oh,
And I
absolutely.
just, so, but anyway, it was so wonderful to have you with me tonight.
I was
I
honored. Thank you for
I'm
having me.
always so glad to have you on, and
I
I'm
hate I
glad that
missed your message when you sent it on the phone, but I've been just so busy.
it's okay. I figured as much, and I was like, well, I'm going to pop into his chat and I'm going to tell him to check his email. And if he's
Well, I'd already
able,
seen you. I seen your email and I sent one back. I thought.
I don't think I got one from you.
I thought I did. I may have not hit the send button, but
Yeah,
I
you
wrote
might
you an
not have.
email.
You might have thought you did, but you didn't. But anyway, it all worked out. You're here. You were here. It was a great live. I'm glad you were able to join me for the anniversary of the Delphi case. I always love hearing about what you're up to. I know that a lot of it you can't talk about, and I understand that. But I just want you to know that everybody here in this channel supports you 100%. And we want you to continue working those cold cases and
Thank you.
doing that. And your channel, my dear friend, is growing just fine. Don't you worry about it.
I
You're
just
doing,
checked my draft emails,
yeah.
and that email is in draft. And I guess there's no need to send that. Send it now. But I didn't hit the send button.
You're fine.
That blasted Google machine.
There you go. It's fine. But yeah, just keep doing what you're doing because it's great. And I do think you make a difference for these families, and I know they appreciate you very much.
Well, we're going to try it, but it's like winning the lottery. I mean, you had some great officers throughout the years that worked on these cases, more than one. And of course, you may have someone that isn't up to snuff, but all in all, there's going to be someone that has the ability to solve the case that looked at it, especially on cold cases. And so it's so hard to go back on these cases 10, 15, 20, 30 years and knowing that the officers that have firsthand information and have all the information aren't capable of solving it. And what is the likelihood? It's a long shot, but we still have to try to do it.
Oh, sure. And you never know. It only takes that one break, right? It
Oh, it
only usually
does.
takes that one break. And they said for Delphi, for how long? We only need that one piece, that one
Oh, yeah.
piece.
Yeah.
So,
And they had it the whole time.
they had it the whole time. It was right there in front of them. So, well, you have a good evening, the rest of your evening, and tell Mrs. Steve I said hello, and I will talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So there you go, guys. What a wonderful friend. What a great person. I just love having him on my show. He's just incredible. I wanted to let you guys know that I have the utmost respect for my moderators who I couldn't do this show every other day. I do 3 a week without them. They spend their time here with me and help to keep the chat going, making sure that everyone in there is, getting questions answered. And there's a lot of times when I have guests on that I'm not able to see everything that's going on in the chat. And I feel bad about that because I do like to interact with all of you. I want you to know that when you're here, it's important to me. Please make sure you subscribe and ring that bell and hit the thumbs up. The thumbs up is the biggest support you can give me on YouTube. It keeps my videos up in the algorithm so people can see them. And so that really helps. But yeah, my moderators are the best. I really appreciate John and Maria and Frank Meister and Verbal Judo and Pigeon Mac. All of you guys, Tech Death Hippie was in here tonight. You you just really make my channel possible. And for all my subscribers and all my members, thank you so much for all of your support. The PayPal donations, buy me a coffee. Those of you who buy me teas, I love it. I don't drink coffee, but I love my chai teas. So when you go out and buy me a chai, I really love that. So, but anyway, you guys, thank you so much for being here. And everyone have a great evening, and I will see you on Thursday. Good night, everybody. And thank you so much for being here. Be safe.